Well, good afternoon to everybody. Hope you can hear me okay, see my screen. Um, this is an introduction into assemble to order process in Business Central. So what is the assemble to order process? The assemble to order process is when you have certain, and let's just use the term light manufacturing, or even kit type items that you only put together once they've been sold. So you don't have these laying around on the shelf as a whole piece. They're like maybe several pieces put together. So to have assembly items, what the object is, or the process is that you would sell a high level item, let's just call it a kit. It could be a program, it could be a chair, it could be a set of bookshelf type stuff. It could be just about anything. It could also be a summary of parts that you may have that you're putting together. Uh, Filters, sponges, all kinds of stuff. But that part that you're selling is a unfinished good until it's actually been made. So what happens is you get an order for it, and then your people would go and pull all the raw components off of the shelf, say assemble them together, and then they would say, okay, here's your finished product, now you can sell it. Well, in Business Central, there's a way to streamline that so that a lot of that is more automated. It leaves less hands in the entry of making sure something got done from the sales part. It allows you to track it better. You can then say that your assembled order is in this stage. It might be in partway done, halfway done. Maybe you've got 20 of them. You could tell that 10 are done. It's a lot of visibility to get you. So let's start off by just validating what an assembled item is. So in Business Central, in this case, I have this part right here. So this is just a desk test, just a desk, nothing needs to be put together. You notice when we get down here into the replenishment method, it does not have an assembly BOM to it. This right here is what tells me this item is not assembled. But if I go back and I look at my list of items here, I'm going to put these in descending order. You can see that I have several of these put together. And again, let's look at a couple of these just so you can get the idea. So in this case, the assembled item is saying that when I sell this, I want you to go take the conference table, the swivel chairs, 6 of them, whether you're packaging them up, whether you're putting them together, you're able to then say it took us X amount of time to put all this together. So this is adding to the cost. So this right here gets you a cost that rolls up to your finished item. Now, the customer does not see that they're getting a 920S, 1968S, or that Catherine did it. All they're seeing is that we had a 925W conference bundle. Same thing that is going to happen with the item that we are going to show you how it works with. I have just put what I called a kit together, just so you could see. This kit together, in my case, is going to be something as simple as some coffee filters or paper cups and some roasted beans. It could be this simple, it could be elaborate. All of it is in the bill of materials that tells it what to do. And again, you could take this as far into light manufacturing as you want, or not use it. The difference being the assembly BOM comes with Business Essentials, which is the base license. If you got into any type of manufacturing that was more than what this could happen, you jump up to the premium license, which puts more cost per month to each license used. There's 2 other things I want you to note. You have the ability of doing assemble to stock and assemble to order. Well, assemble to order means that you still want to track all that, but you're basically going to stock them on the shelf so they're ready to ship out. In my case, I don't want to put a bunch of them together because maybe they have like components, and I said the word like components, that I might use between other things. Well, I don't want those all laid up on the shelf for an item that's not moving when I may need them for something that does move. So on your replenishment method, this has changed from purchase to assembly. All that's required me is it shows that we have a bill of materials with it. But by doing this step right here, we take out a bunch of different steps that have to be made. So here's the way the process works. Is when a sales order happens in Business Central, we'll just start with the sales order. And I do a new one. And I'm going to sell that to the school because the school always needs coffee. I have my delivery dates. My system date is set, as you'll see here, to today being 4/30/25 and there. I can say that this is due on 3rd of May. Maybe I gave it a promised delivery date of the 4th of May. Again, you'll still see that you have the functionality, and let's say the 5th because the 4th is a weekend, of course. I can put any external numbers or reference numbers on here. This might be the customer PO number. I'm going to come down here. I'm still selling an item. So I'm going to do my lookup. I'm selling a 1008. So in Business Central, if I was to want to create 1008s, is I would go to what's called an assembly order. And I would tell it, hey, I want to make 12 of these, 50 of these, 100 of these, and I give it the due date on it. Because we're going to do it by order, your sales entry person does not have to do that. I'm going to say that I just sold 50 of these. And as soon as I hit the quantity to assemble, it said, I'll go make those for you. You can look in here. And at this point right here, I could make changes to this. I can say, in this case, I'm going to up this to 30 per. I might make a change here. I might add a new item. Maybe for this particular one, I'm going to throw in something, let's say. You could do that. I am going to leave all of this the way it is. And the first thing you'll see here is it says, are they availability warnings? So this is telling me I don't have all of this that I need to make it, which would be my first clue. Well, then I better start getting some on order. That might skew the date that I have those to ship out by. But that is another thing that we've made pretty easy for us in Business Central. So once that is done, all I have to do is release this order after I put a location code in, because I have to know where I'm selling it from. And they got moved over here. So we're going to sell it out of our main office. I'm going to update it all. And now I will release it. Now it's in a release status. I can't change this without removing the status and doing it. Now, in the background, what that did is over here in the assembly entry window, and this is something that as a sales order person, you wouldn't need to know. It made an assembly order, and that assembly order would be right here. Here's the 5 that I did that are due on these dates. If I open that up, this is telling me that on these dates now, I need to put all this together by a particular date. Gives me my unit cost, gives me all the stuff I have with it. I know what is going on with it. Okay, so now in the background, your people who are in the back office have an assembly list, let's say. This is their assembly list. There are some things on here that we are still looking at trying to get added. Out of the box, it looks like this. We are working on some different products so we can at least give you maybe the sales order it goes with or the customer number, something that tells you what it goes with so that you're not just flying blind. And when I say flying blind, you're not really flying blind. You just have to open each one of these up to look at it. Now, how does the salesperson know if they wanted to follow up on it, which one of these to look at? Well, that's easy. Back on the sales order itself, the minute we did that, it creates a link between the item here and the order. So if I go in and I pull this up and I say show the document, I then see that that's for kit A003. Now keep this in mind right now, A003. That should now trigger purchasing to say, hey, I've got some parts I need to order. And purchasing is going to use what we call the requisition worksheet to do that. So whether this is daily, weekly, whether they get notifications via a workflow or something along those lines, that is a per business process that we can help with, or you can use yourself. All you have to do for that is to come to this window right here. I'm going to tell it to calculate a plan. And you'll see here, I've got some date ranges. I'm giving it a wide breadth so I make sure I get something. But in our case, let's just say I just want to see everything that needs to be done between here and the end of, through today and the end of next month. I can, if I've got forecasts and all these things set up, I can. If I know what item I want to, I can narrow it down. If I know a location I want to do it for, I can narrow it down. Or I can just say, show me everything that's out there. Well, this is going through and looking at all the sales orders we have out there, and it's saying, and look, it's saying, oh, look, I found one. Well, I can tell by the due date here that this is ours, but I can also tell that by just highlighting it and going up to my line and look at order tracking, and I'll see there's 003. Again, IAP implementation is looking for a way, and we're almost through with it, of where we actually on the card here will have the order number from that. And that will also then transfer to the purchase order that we're going to create next. So the minute that happens, if this has a preferred vendor or people you've ordered for before, this will show up. If not, it's going to say, who do you want to buy from? I can say I've never bought that. I can say new. I'm going to look at the vendors and I'm going to say, hey, we're buying that. Well, let's just buy that from Allen. I can give it a vendor, the vendor item number that they use, or I can let it be the same number. Do the same thing with their paper cups. I can look in here and just select it at this point. Now, I got this one down here. I don't want to mess with this one right now. I just want to get my coffee cups and everything in line. I can uncheck this one box, and this says access accept action message. I'm telling it here that I want to purchase these items. So I'm going to now do a home, and I'm going to tell it to carry out my messages. Tell it to print the order. I'm going to tell it to use the last filters. We'll do this. This is going to give me a purchase order number. Purchase order number says I have this many. And there's also can be put on the report, that these are due by each date. You can also set this to make individual purchase orders if they're not the same dates. So let's look at that now. The PO is 106066. Pulls out of this window, so it clears it. If I go to my purchasing now and I go to my purchase orders, I know that 10666 is here. The same thing could happen here. I'm going to be able to look back here and say, well, what does that really go with? I'm doing the line. I do my, excuse me, on this one, I do the order. It's under functions on this line. And I do the order tracking for first line. It should tell me that that's on A001, which is the assembly it's for. I can do that one and say this is on A003 is where it should be. I can see that. Now you're still probably wondering, well, why is that so special? It's special because of this right here. I can now come back in here and I'm going to say that I only want to deal with A003 right now because it needs to go out the door. I can come in here and say that I want this to be a quantity, excuse me. I'm going to zero the quantity to receive out here because I don't want the first one. I just want this one. By doing this, I'm going to go up and say that I've basically received those. So let's look at the preview posting first. Should tell me if everything's okay with this. My GL entry, I'm bringing the parts in. There's the orders going against. I'm going to put in, at this point, I'm just going to receive the items. I'm not invoicing them yet because maybe I don't have the invoice, but I'd have the parts. By doing that now, it actually comes back. And now if I go back and I look at this right here, and let's go into that. Well, I'm sorry. If I go back to my sales order and look at that, now when we come into that line, my hope is that when I get in this window here, this right here gives me no error messages. Well, the top one still has an error message. Why does the top one have an error message and the bottom one doesn't? Well, that would have to be with the setup. So we have our F1001 is copied. Let's go look at this WRB 1005 and see how come it did not order any of those. So again, back in our item list, we could look at this and say, okay, our WRB one second, I should have just written those down, but I didn't. Of course, if I looked at this, what is that again? And I will write it down this time so we don't make that same mistake. We are looking at a WRB 1005. Remember, the WRB 1005, I'm saying to pull it out of the main. So let's go look. Maybe that's in a different warehouse for whatever reason. Maybe I didn't know that. Maybe we may misplaced it. There's a million reasons why it could be there. We're going to put this back in descending order. Look at the WRB 1005. It says I have 200 of them. I want to say to show me the item availability by location. Where are those setting? Those are setting in a warehouse that doesn't exist. And that could have been the way the system brought the data in. It could be that a mistake was made, on and on. Well, that's easy. All we would do is we would go make a item transaction transfer that would move them from that location to the main warehouse. For the sake of this, I am just going to come up, and this is not a what I call a way I would normally do it. This is going to make no financial impact because it's still doing the inventory. We're just moving it. But if you had certain things set up on those warehouses, it might. We're going to do 200 here. I'm going to tell it OK. We're going to look at that one more time because I did not see what that said as I did that. Let's have a value, item, journal, not be 0 or empty. Okay, well, let's do it the hard way. Shouldn't say the hard way, but maybe the better term is let's do it the proper way. We're going to come up here and we're going to say we want an item reclass. And I'm going to take that item WRB-1005. I'm going to say the old location is blank, and my new location is going to be main. I'm going to give it a quantity of all 200. And check it out. Let's just make sure that it's happy. Yes. We're going to say it's in logistics and see if we can get away with that. Okay. We're going to do it the harder way, and we're just going to use an item journal to move those. In an item journal, we're going to do it 2 ways. First thing we're going to do on the item journal is I'm going to just tell it to take item. We're going to make this a negative adjustment. The item is again our WRB. Let's go minus 200. And let's do a positive adjustment for that same item. To main. It's okay. I'm going to do this part for right now. We're just going to get rid of this one just till I see what's wrong with the data we have here. Let's just post that one. They're posted. Now we should be able to come back here. It says we have 400, so again, we'll get those adjustments out of the way. And if I looked at just looking at the adjust one, there's 200 are main now. I can try to just say 0. I'm assuming it's going to bark, yes. I will figure out what is going on with those in the background. Come back to my sales order now, and my sales order now should show that I have those to sell. So I'm just going to do a quick refresh, just in case it wants to refresh. Sometimes a refresh does make it happy, just like a reboot of your computer would. We'll do that. I can look at that item. $1,000. $20 pieces. Okay. I want to show you how this works, so I am just going to do a purchase order to bring those in. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to look at the one thing here, though. I wanted to actually show you that part of the troubleshooting would be this. All the steps we just did, I would have looked at, but if I also will look at this, go, okay, where's our WRB5? Why isn't this coming up in the replenishment method? So I have a purchase because I have no reordering policy. I haven't told it how I want it to reorder. So in here, we can put this where it's order for order. I could do fixed order quantities, do lot for lot. In this case, let's say that we want to do a fixed reorder point. I'm going to say my reorder point is when it is 500 or less. I'm going to say my reorder quantity. Let's just say we're going to do a 10,000 of it. So again, not all of these right here are set up. I just happened to pick one that was set up a different way than what I normally would. Now, if I go back and we can use that same, still use that requisition window. So consider the requisition worksheet almost like your planning worksheet. Now let's calculate a plan. See if we get our coffee on there, and there's our coffee. So let's take and again, I want to just increase this some, just because I want to make sure that I don't have another issue. Take these, let's carry out the action plan. Well, that's good. It stopped me from getting it from a vendor, so we'll add the vendor. And 9 out of 20 times, this right here is already set up. Let's carry it out. Took me to PO106067. That's on my other screen. Let's go from here. Let's go back to purchasing again. This is what I would have expected the first time, that when we went to purchasing, that we could have did all this in one step. Again, keep in mind that these are 3 different people doing this more than likely. So we have this. I'm going to do a receipt. Finally got something to work our way. Let's go back to our sales order. So now I've come back in because purchasing has told me that everything is hunky-dory and it's ready to ship. When I come in here now, first thing the system's going to look at, it's going to reevaluate and say, do I have enough stuff here to do it with? So we'll look at the kit, we'll look at our symbol, and now we have nothing in the window, which tells me now that we have enough warning to do it. Now, when we actually go to do the post, that is when this is going to make a transaction in the background that takes these parts out of inventory and puts this part back in for us to sell. Today, this does not exist in inventory. Just post it. We can ship it, but let's just do a ship and invoice to be done with it. And I am just full of wisdom today, aren't I? So you'll notice that I can't make a change here because I'm still in the release status. Reopen it, let's put our tax code in, release it again. Now let's post it. If I want to see it, let's just take a look at it so you guys can see what happened. You'll see here that 50 were sold. And just to further look at it, a couple things is let's go back and look at the assembly entry. The A003 is gone. It's now in history, and we could look it up through the archive. Let's go look at our inventory so you can see a couple things. I want you to see on the 1008 account, we're back to 0. But yet if I go into the ledger entry and look, you will see where is my ledger entries? They're over here. Go in history, you can see I did the assembly, so it posted them from the assembly. Is a different document number, but it is the document number that we did because I don't have those in alignment. I have my value here. Now if we go back again and let's look at our WRB. Again, just so you can see that, you know, we're not looking at mirrors in the background. We have our item. Same thing this time. I've learned my lesson. Let's go right to entries, to the ledger entries. And you'll see here that we have the posted assembly. We have our purchase order that came in on. We have the purchase stuff. So you can see all the transactions, the way they handled in here. They did remove them. And if we also look at our coffee cups, we should say the same thing there. There. So this is a situation where you have a person who enters the sales order. You have a person who puts the order together. You have a person who purchases the order. And then you have the salesperson go back in and do their sales work. So a lot of times that in a small company might be the same person. In a company of a big one, it would be 3. So the point is each one is once the sales order is entered, we can make it notify so that purchasing knows, hey, I should check to see if there's a need for it. It would then look, do the requisition worksheets. If we have the inventory set up with the right replenishment methods, it will then look at that, bring it in. As you start to attach the vendor information to them, it'll pick the vendor. It will also, if there's multiple vendors, allow you to select a second or third vendor, or create a new vendor, or select a new vendor. You got several choices you can do there. That then, once it's received in, sends information to the assembly people, hey, your parts are here. They put it together, they send information to the sales order that says, hey, go ahead and post. Again, through Power Automate and those things, you can make workflows that do that for you, or you can do it the old-fashioned way, and you know, Johnny calls Paul, Paul goes back and tells Amy, yeah, you're ready to do it. Amy fires up the invoice, sends it out, the assembly process gets sucked right out on her side, and everything is said and done. There any questions? We have anyone on hand in the audience here? I see no. After you watch this, feel free to reach out to implementation specialists if you have any follow-up, if there's something you want to examine more in detail, and we would be happy to help you. Thank you and have a great rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.